welcome back to my Astro Imaging Journey channel. In this episode I want to do something a little bit different. I am going to integrate my master bias into a super bias, the 800 ISO ones I took the other night, but I want to try something with an AWS, an Amazon Web Service workspace. I've been debating building a desktop to do my processing on, as opposed to using this laptop. As you can see, this laptop does have an i7 processor as well, and it's running at 2.8 gigahertz. It's got 4 cores with 8 logical processors and 32 gig of memory. I don't know if building a desktop's going to, a higher end desktop's going to be worth the money to do that just for this, for processing, that is. So to that end, the workflow today is going to be integrate the 100 800 ISO, the 100 images at 800 ISO, all of them biases, both on this laptop as well as on the Amazon Web Service workspace. I've already pre-configured it, got it ready to go, have PixInsight loaded on it. I'll go over its capabilities when we get to that point. But it is Power Pro, 8 processors, 32 gig of memory, so it's roughly the same. So we'll check that out. So let's go ahead and minimize this. And one thing I want to do, because I did do a test run, I started this earlier, I want to come down here in case you're not familiar. The little wrench here is your preferences, and if I had anything, I currently have it unchecked here, but if there was a cache, we could clear it out. So should not have to worry about that. So let's go ahead and open up our files. Combination, we're going to select average. Normalization is going to be none. Weights, we're going to select don't care. Pixel rejection, since I have 100 subframes, we're going to do linear fit clipping. I'm not going to generate the rejection maps. I am going to clip low and high pixels, and I'm not going to clip the low and high ranges. So with that, let's go ahead and apply global. And the time is 2:58. Using 8 worker threads, so it's using all 8 logical processors. So let's put this up here. As you can see, we open up the resource monitor, go over to CPU. It is truly using all 8 of those logical processors. So we're going to go ahead and let this finish up. Again, that was 2:58 was the start time. And we'll see what happens when we get over to the super bias as well. Alright, that is done. So let's check this out real quick. That was about 9 minutes to integrate. Go ahead and switch over. Okay, so 9 minutes to integrate. Let's go ahead and do our super bias. Now, the default on the multi-scale layers is 7. I drop that down to a 6 since I have 100 images. I believe the recommendation is if you're over 20 or so, to drop that down to 6. So I have done that. So we're going to go ahead and drag that over here. And with this, that's 308. Let's see what happens with this. And that took less than a minute. So let's stretch that. Put in 24-bit mode, and that is our SuperBIAS. So let's go ahead and save this. All right, and now that's done. So I'm going to switch over to my virtualized desktop. 1 second. All right, I've got my virtualized desktop loaded up here. One thing I wanted to point out while we're here, so the options that we do have some Linux bundles. I did try to get PixInsight working on Linux, but on a virtualized desktop, when they're charging you per hour, I launched it and tried to get it installed. It installed, but there's some libraries that it couldn't load, so quick Google search, tried a couple things, and it just didn't work. So rather than chew into the per hour rate, I decided to terminate that virtualized desktop, and I went down here to the Windows bundles, and this Power Pro here is the one that I opted for. 8 CPUs, 32 gig of memory, 100 gigabytes worth of hard drive space. I really wanted to go with the 16 core and 122 gig of memory, but since I don't have a business account and it's my personal AWS account to try things out on, we do use AWS at work. So generally I use my personal account to do testing so that we can, and I do that testing on free tier stuff, and then move whatever I'm doing over to the real stuff where it's charge, and we're not. It makes the billing a little bit easier, but that's, I digress. Anyways, I wanted to test this one out, but unfortunately, because I am on the free tier and everything else, I have 0 able to be provisioned under the Graphics Pro without going through an account rep. So I went with the Power Pro option, and I was able to launch that one. So let's maximize that. Let's pull this down over here. So as you can see, this is running at 2.3 gigahertz, but it is a Xeon processor, which is a higher end processor than the i7 that I have in the laptop. But it is running at 2.3 gigahertz as opposed to 2.8. 8 processors, so that's pretty close, and 32 gig of memory. So we will keep an eye on those statistics while we do our integration here. So let's clear this out. Before I get into that, how do I get my files here? Well, I used Google Drive, and uploaded the biases to my Google Drive, and then I downloaded them from Google Drive onto the virtual desktop. There's really no way that I've found that's easy or easier to do a direct transfer between my NAS to the Amazon Web Service virtualized desktop. So with that, I do have them locally here in the Documents folder. Went ahead and created an Astro Imaging folder, and there's my biases. So let's go ahead and open that up. And we'll go down here. All these settings are the same. Average combination, no normalization, weights or I don't care. And under pixel rejection, linear fit clipping. Don't generate the rejection maps. Clip high and low. Do not clip low and high ranges. So we will go ahead and get that going. While that's running, we're going to keep an eye on our processor. And both of these, it's using 8 worker threads, just like the other one. We have all 8 CPUs pegging out. And I want to look at my memory usage. I'm not having any problems with memory on my laptop, but let's see what happens over here. Alright, we got an error here. What is the error? Out of memory. No, that is not good. I do not have that problem on the laptop. So let me Alright, so I'm going to go, let me see if I can bump this up. Let me see if I can bump up the swap file. I'll be back in a minute. Alright, that took way longer than I expected. 4:06, started at 3:32. We are at 34 minutes. Go ahead and close this out. Yeah, that is just way too much. But if you notice, it's not a grayscale. So why did that? I'm gonna have to go back to my other one. That might be part of the problem I'm having with my integration with my subs. Is maybe my biases are wrong. Let me double check. Format hands average. Okay. All that's the same. That's default. Wow. I don't get it. I was kind of worried that it was going through all three channels. So I'm going to go back. Let me close this out. So that took 34 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to close out of that and go back over here. All right. Let's see if we can scroll back up here. So if you noticed this section right here, it's not doing it by the channels. And I just remembered there was one setting I forgot to change. So let me minimize this. So over here, this is the workspace here. So let me go over here. I want to go to View, Explorer, Windows, Format Explorer. I shoot with a DSLR. So I want to go to this RAW setting. Go to Edit Preferences. I want to click Pure RAW. And click OK. Close that out. Now let's rerun this. Make sure our other settings are the same. Everything else should be right. Alright, so start time 4:20. If it's like, now we should be pretty close. So let's let these finish up. Oh. Yep. I want to abort this real quick. I want to do one thing. I want to clear the memory cache. Purge the persistence. Now I want to run it. So it's still at 4:20. And let's see how long this takes now. Alright, that definitely looks a lot better. Not doing the per channel, so it did not attempt to debar them. That was the thing. It was trying to debar them and integrate the channels, which is what we do not want to do since we're working with raw files. We don't want to debar until partway through our integration process, especially for our darks and flats and biases. We're at 4:23. Let's see how long this takes. Alright, we're done, and that is 4:28, so 8 minutes. Roughly the same amount of time, which would be expected if I could talk today. you know, all things being equal, same amount of memory, essentially the same amount of processors. The virtual desktop's running at 2.3 gig. My laptop's running at 2.8 gig. I would have to say they're pretty much equal. So I think I can conclude that unless I can increase the number of processors, I really don't see the benefit in building a dedicated desktop at this point. But you know, it was a good experiment. So my recommendation for anybody that's out there, you know, look at your system. If you're running a Windows box, let me close these out. And I'm going to go ahead and close this guy out too. 1 second here. Close this out. Alright, so if you want to look at your system, just, you know, if you're running Windows 10, come down here to your Start menu, wherever it might be. It might be on the left or right, who knows. And right click and go to your Task Manager. Then once that opens up, come over here to Performance. And you can see your CPU up here in the top. And how many cores and logical processors you have. I would say, based on my 20 years of experience in IT, I kind of thought that it was going to be about equal, and everything pretty much panned out as I expected. So if you're running a desktop or a laptop and you're running fewer number of total processors, say, you know, you might have one that's running at 6 or a 4, who knows, you know, you try it out. Sign up for a free, you know, signing up for AWS is free to create an account. And as you saw on the page earlier, it was $19 a month and $1.47 US per hour to have a virtual desktop. And you know, start one. You know, start a Power Pro with the 8 cores and run PixInsight on it and see if you get any better performance. You know, that might be affordable if you only need to do the heavy processing, which is the image integration anyways, you know, a couple times a month. You know, it might cost you, you know, if your processing time for me is about, I don't know, 10 to 16 hours, you know, you could do a lot of stuff locally, and then upload to your virtual desktop and do the heavy lifting, like the image integration on there, and cut that down to, you know, 4 to 8 hours maybe. Who knows? Would have to do some more testing to see what that would come down to, but you know, it might be worth it to run a virtual desktop a couple times a month. And you know, if you're talking, let's say you need 20 hours to integrate your images, then you know, you're talking $19 for the month, and then 20 hours at $1.47. So we're looking at what, $30. So that's $49, $50 a month if you're only doing one set of image integrations a month. it might be worth it to you instead of spending, $1,000 or $2,000 on a desktop or a better laptop to run that stuff. It would definitely save you some money in the long run, but that's a call you'll have to make. But I don't know. For me, the laptop's running as well as that Power Pro. Again, I couldn't launch a Graphics Pro that had the 16 virtual CPUs and more memory, but if supposedly all I got to do is send an account manager an email and they can possibly add the ability for me to launch one, and then I could test that out, I might do it just to see. But right now, for me, it's not worth it. But if you're running fewer than 8 processors, then it might be worth it to you. Do a cost benefit analysis for yourself. Run through some old data if you got it, or if you got some new data, run through it and see what your total integration time to get that one image that you're going to go on to process into your final image. Get through all your calibration and debarring and star alignment, all that, all the way through to image integration and possibly even drizzle integration, and see what the total time is from start to finish. And then look at your logical processors. Look at your speed too, because if you're running at 1.6 gig, but you got 8 processors, in theory, the workspace should be a little bit faster, but might not be fast enough in order to justify going that route. So, but if you're running 1.5 gigahertz and only 4 processors, then I would say your image integration time, just by the math, should cut in half. So if you're spending 36 hours integrating images, then it might be worth it to you to, possibly sign up for AWS and get a virtual desktop, or possibly build yourself a desktop and go that route. Or buy a Dell XPS. What I'm running is an HP Omen 15-inch. It might be worth it. That's entirely up to you and what you can spend and what your budget is. But who knows? But it was a good experiment for me to at least try this. So I know it probably ran me about 6 or 7 hours worth of time, plus launching a Linux box and then the Windows box. So yeah, this probably cost me $50-$60 to do this experiment, but at least now I know. So I can safely say that for me, for now, this laptop, which is an HP Omen 15-inch, is working about as good as I can get it. There's no real reason for me to build a better desktop or even go with a virtualized desktop and try to cut down the integration times, because I'm about as good as I'm going to get right now, without spending some serious cash on the beefier virtualized desktop, or several $1,000s to build a beefy desktop in order to integrate the images. So, and as we've seen in previous videos, I usually do some of the stuff that doesn't take too long. A lot of the earlier processes like calibration and debarring, those go pretty quickly in the realm of, some could be 10 minutes, could be an hour. So I can do those off and on during the day while I'm doing other stuff. And then when it comes to the actual image integration and the drizzle integrations, those take 6 to 8 hours. So they, I start those at night before I go to bed, let them run overnight. They're done in the morning. So, that's just time management and doing things when I don't need to be on the computer. So, enough rambling. Hope you enjoyed this. Again, for me, this laptop's working about as good as it's going to go. The web service virtualized desktop is a good experiment to try, but it didn't really give me any benefit, so I'm going to terminate it, and so I don't get charged an ongoing fee of $19 a month. And do you, like I've always said, do what works best for you. It was a good experiment. Hopefully you got some insight on what might help you out in your image processing and the time it takes. So with that, I'm going to say thanks for watching. Stick around for the outro, and clear skies.
Thanks for watching yet another episode from the Astro Imaging Journey channel. Really appreciate your viewership. In our upper right, we have the latest video that I have posted prior to this one. Down in the lower right, we have what YouTube thinks you will enjoy. Below is a subscription link. Please hit that like button, subscribe if you so choose, ring that bell if you want to get notified of something new, and as always, thank you, clear skies. Remember to